I think people who think Dark Souls 3 plays like Dark Souls 1 either never finished DS1 or haven't touched it ever in their life since finishing it. Returns to the roots of the Souls franchise. Yeah, it's absolute dog shit. That ain't true. It ain't true. I don't, like, it's objectively not true. It's because Miyazaki made it, dude. That's it. That's all. That's the only reason. A couple of years ago, I decided that I was going to beat the Dark Souls trilogy, as it was something that I had on my gaming to-do list, and I had yet to, at the time, beat any of the Dark Souls games. I had buckled down and grit my teeth through DS1 and its amazing interconnected world, had my mind blown discovering Anor Londo, suffered through the fucking archers, the pitch black nightmare that is the catacombs, and I eventually conquered Gwyn, Lord of Plingplonks. Then, I muscled my way through Dark Souls 2 and got used to the iframes, discovered 1/100th of its secrets, got ambushed, swung my big clunky sword, moved through molasses, and I eventually conquered Nashandra, claiming my empty throne. Then I got to Dark Souls 3, and I fucking gave up. Something about the game felt wrong. It felt off, and I couldn't pinpoint exactly what it was. I found it to be very, very frustrating because I was so close to completing my goal, but I told myself that maybe I had just worn myself out on the Dark Souls formula. So I put the game down and vowed that I would come back older, wiser, and better at Dark Souls 3. And then a year passed. We were 3 months into quarantine, and I say to myself, hey, what better a time to finally beat Dark Souls 3? So I did. And I had such a miserable fucking experience that when I beat the game, I uninstalled it before the credits could even finish. And let me reiterate that my experience was so terrible that when I decided to give the game another try a month ago for the recording of this video, I hoped that I would realize that there was something that I missed, something I overlooked, something. And it left me pondering. Why did I think it was so bad? Why do so many people consider this game to be so good? Why do people consider Dark Souls 3 to be better than even Dark Souls 2, let alone the more acclaimed Dark Souls 1? Now that sounds like a lot to cold open a video, but I have to come clean about something. Because while I was getting footage for this video, a video that was going to be made with all of the contempt in the universe, something happened. I kinda got it? I seriously want to clarify what a drastic leap in quality I think the game made while I was playing through it again. I went from thinking that it was genuinely one of the worst games ever made to thinking it's like a 5 out of 10. So I'm just gonna shut up now and get to it. A lot of people really, really love Dark Souls 3. Some even consider it to be the best of the series. I know that my opinion and thoughts on Dark Souls 3 were, and for the most part, still are in the vast minority of the public opinion about the game. For the longest time, I was in complete disbelief about what people saw in this game. Dark Souls 3's biggest claim to fame, I think, is the return of the founder of the Souls franchise, Hidetaka Miyazaki, who was more or less not really involved in the development of Dark Souls 2. But even now, after having played through the game twice at this point, the entire experience felt like leftover design scraps from a worn-out Miyazaki who was just trying to move on from the Souls formula after having worked on it for over 7 years at the time of Dark Souls 3's release. The combat in this game is complicated, to say the least, for me. On one hand, I do think the game feels really good. The controls are incredibly responsive and the movement is sublimely fluid, despite the fact that you can no longer do this. But on the other hand, I firmly believe that with the exception of not being able to roll in more than 4 directions in Dark Souls 1, 3 is the worst in the series in terms of implementation of the main focal point of the series. The main point of frustration with my feelings on Dark Souls 3 stems from the same exact problem that, funnily enough, is one of the main problems that people have with Dark Souls 2, which is the overabundance of swarming you with enemies. Now look, I understand why some of you watching may be saying to yourself right now at this exact second, how the fuck did Dark Souls 2 do this better? And I think that mainly it comes down to the speed of the game. Dark Souls 3 is ungodly fast. To say that this is a secret would be a lie. You were often put in situations throughout the campaign of DS3 where you were either spamming the dodge button or trying to block a barrage of attacks from upwards of 3 to 4 enemies. In Dark Souls 2, you can be swarmed by enemies as well, but I think that the objectively slower mechanics of the game allow you as the player to have time to fully itemize what's going on in your surroundings, plan and react accordingly. You can argue with me all you want, but I will die on the hill that Dark Souls is at its best when its combat is slow, heavy, and deliberate. Most times that you were surrounded in Dark Souls 2 are by enemies that have slow wind-up animations and or are in big enough rooms that you can maneuver around your surroundings and figure out the best actions to take. I'm not sitting here and saying that Dark Souls 2 is a slideshow in terms of speed, but I think it's better than this. Dark Souls 3 is very light, fluid, quick, and intense. It uses the same exact engine as Bloodborne, which begins part of my problems with the game's combat. Bloodborne was built from the ground up with its own engine, its own pace of combat, and its own mechanics. The overall design of the game was more or less the same, but I mean, my god, if you play Dark Souls 1 and then immediately go into Bloodborne, it feels like fucking whiplash. Bloodborne is a game that does often swarm you with enemies, and is often just as fast as Dark Souls 3, but the difference between these two games is that Bloodborne is a game designed around incredibly fast and aggressive combat. It even has a mechanic that helps incentivize you to be aggressive in the form of a health regenerating system, where if you take damage and are able to deal damage back in return within a certain time frame, you will get some of your health back. You won't get all of it back, but this simple little addition to the mechanics of the Souls formula completely changes how you are meant to play the game. Dark Souls 3 is as fast and as brutally aggressive as Bloodborne, and because of this, seems to incentivize you to be just as aggressive back, especially since it uses a lot of the same sort of combat feel. But there's no heal back mechanic. One of the most bizarre things to me in playing through Dark Souls 3 a second time is realizing that the beginning of the game is really the most consecutively difficult part to someone who isn't yet familiar with the tempo and the pace of the game. Up until you pass through the swamp, the game really does have this fascination with throwing several enemies at you, which in my opinion, with the speed of the game, makes it much harder. It bafflingly tones down on that as the game progresses, but obviously still has its moments, such as the entirety of the archives. But it seems very weird to me that the first few levels would be the parts of the games where the team decides to bombard you with hordes of enemies. A game like Dark Souls 3 would actually benefit so much from a secondary healing item such as the life gems from Dark Souls 2. The amount of times that the game does seem to hurl mobs of enemies at you, while also being so incredibly fast-paced, means that you'll probably be taking a lot of hits on your first couple runs of the game. Dark Souls 3 tends to turn into a dodge fest for a majority of the runtime, and the only way that I was able to find any real enjoyment out of the game on this second playthrough was dumping points into stamina right from the get-go. I'm sure that it's possible to beat this game without doing so, because people on the internet are fucking incredible at video games. But I feel like for the average schlub, like me, you will not succeed in Dark Souls 3 without having stamina as your first or second most important leveling option. Kinda like having to dump points into ADP in Dark Souls 2. It's almost like it's the same problem. Oh! Having a secondary healing source would help balance out a lot of the mistakes that you'll make as a new player. It just feels like the team took an engine made for another game and haphazardly threw Dark Souls mechanics onto it in an effort to make a deadline. And with the dodging mechanic being more crucial than ever in the series, I suspect that a lot of newer players will be very likely to make such crucial mistakes, especially when fighting bosses. Speaking of which, as much as I came around to the overall feel of Dark Souls 3, there is something in particular that still has not budged, and that is the consistently terrible quality of the game's bosses. And I think that my opinion of these bosses stems from the fact that due to Dark Souls 3's insistent application of spamming dodge, A majority of the game's bosses, despite the varied movesets and diverse nature of the characters themselves, all feel very, very similar to play against. Dark Souls 3 falls into a trap of focusing so much on dodging that just about every single boss all resort to an incredibly similar structure of combat. Dodge an attack with either 1 or 2 swings that possibly use the same wind-up animation, dodge an attack that has an upwards of 8 swings, and then you swing and hit, hopefully. The games up until this point are built around learning attack patterns and taking advantage of the push and pull nature of combat. Sure, you might have to wait a bit for your opportunity to attack, but I think that the bosses in Dark Souls 1 are not only difficult because the moveset of the bosses are varied and difficult to work around, but it's also difficult either because of situations you're put into or the boss's gimmick. The Iron Golem, the Gaping Dragon, the Capra Demon, the Bell Gargoyles, Chaos Witch Quelaag, and the Bed of Chaos are some examples that I can name where the gimmick of the boss is what really brings a well-roundedness to the difficulty of each. Sure, fighting the bosses themselves can be difficult, but learning what makes each boss tick really is the challenge here. The Iron Golem pits you in a difficult arena where if you're not being careful, you will fall off the edge of the map and immediately die. The Capra Demon puts you in an ungodly tiny arena. The Bell Gargoyles, funnily enough, have 2 gimmicks. The arena, which like the Iron Golem is incredibly easy to fall from and die, and you have to fight 2 of them. Chaos Witch Quelaag spits out pits of lava that you have to avoid and maneuver around, and the Bed of Chaos almost even isn't a boss, it's fucking weird. And these are just a few examples, but there are plenty more that I can give as to why the bosses in Dark Souls have become such a staple in the series. Apart from bosses like the ancient Wyvern? How do you say Wyvern?
Wyvern.
Apart from bosses like the ancient Wyvern, the first half of the Nameless King, Aldrich, Wolnir, the Great Wood and the Crystal Sage, the bosses in 3 feel static. There's hardly any real change in the way that you have to combat them apart from learning what wind-up animation is the really annoyingly long swinging one and which one isn't. The only real gimmick I feel that Dark Souls 3 has are fake-outs. So many attacks of bosses are difficult to dodge because the animation makes you think, oh shit, they're gonna hit me if I don't dodge right now. But no, it's just a long wind-up. It's really fucking boring. Well, that and multiple phases. God damn it, do I hate how so many bosses, in an effort to be difficult, resort to having multiple phases in the boss fight. I don't mind a boss with 2 phases, but I mean, when there are as many as there are in 3, it seriously feels like the designers were out of ideas in terms of actual design, and said to themselves, oh, fuck, dude, the game's supposed to be hard, isn't it? Make the boss have another phase. Just do it. And this is going to sound really weird, but I would compare Dark Souls 3's bosses to Super Smash Bros. Ultimate. Now hear me out, okay? Even though there are a lot of characters to choose from, and the game almost objectively feels the best to control, it's pretty hard to tell the difference between an Elegant and a Little Z both playing Luigi, if you catch my drift. Now, before my last playthrough for this video, I firmly believed that the combat was terrible across the board. And the reason that I believed this was probably because of the combination of the intense speed of the game mixed with the tendency to throw hordes of enemies at you, combined with the overall level design. A few key sections in particular stood out to me. The High Wall of Lothric, the Road of Sacrifices, and Farron Keep are in my opinion some of the worst areas in the entire franchise, with Farron Keep possibly being the worst level in the entire series. Disclaimer. The following bit is written, albeit paraphrased, by a friend of mine who loves Dark Souls 3 enough to do Soul Level 1 runs of the game. Take that as you will. The level design is god-awful. There is no area in the game that I have fun playing through. The opening level is awful. The swamp is super awful. The cathedral is miserable and awful. The catacombs is a Dark Souls equivalent of a sewer level. The prison is pain and it never gets any better. The Dark Race are a joke. The big ass crabs are actual cancer. The dude that jumps onto your shoulders and unscrews your head might be the worst enemy of the entire franchise, and those 3 are just in the swamp alone. For as much hype that people give Dark Souls 1 for its completely interconnected world, which even after 10 years is a feature that is so good and so unbelievably impressive that it still feels like a fucking miracle that it even exists, it sort of strikes me as odd that people seem to give Dark Souls 3's world design a pass. I don't normally see a lot of negativity towards the absolute straight line that the world of Dark Souls 3 represents. There are some levels that have isolated interconnectivity, with levels like Anor Londo, the Cathedral of the Deep, and the Grand Archives being nice standout examples that bring the same level of wow factor that bring to mind a fraction of the sensation of taking that elevator from the Undead Parish back down into the Firelink Shrine. But if you take the levels themselves individually and connect them as more or less you will be traveling them, it's just a straight line. It's pretty whack. The world itself makes sense on a map, unlike the map of Dark Souls 2, which, by the way, never bothered me. It confounds me that people use that as an argument against the game. It literally doesn't matter at all. But much like my problem with Resident Evil Village, it's just kind of boring. At least the world design of Dark Souls 2 was interesting. The game has the best art direction of the whole series in a wide variety of locations. The color palette is fucking beautiful, and I mean, like, look at this! Look at this! Look at this! Look at this! Dark Souls 3, while graphically impressive, I mean, it's using the same engine as Bloodborne. It's kinda puke to look at. I think the bosses are repetitive? Oh boy, let me tell you about the color palette of Dark Souls 3. It has gray, some blue, red, orange, oh, and more gray. So now you know how I feel about Dark Souls 3. It's not a lot of praise, is it? You might be wondering, hey, you said at the beginning of the video you had some good things to say. What happened to that? Well, here it goes. I think what happened on the last run-through of this game was that I was trying to fight against the dodging nature of the game and was trying to tank a lot of it. Using the strong wind-up R2 attack instead of just tapping the button instead, blocking instead of dodging, trying to get up and close and personal to most of the enemy encounters, and Dark Souls 3 isn't really a game that wants you to be doing that in. Much like Doom Eternal, Dark Souls 3, more so than any of the games in the Soulsborne franchise that FromSoft has made with the exception of Sekiro, has a very specific way that it wants you to play, and if you deviate much from that path, you will absolutely get wrecked. I think that Dark Souls 3 is the arcade entry in the series. It's so fast-paced and so spammy on the dodge that I feel like that is the way you have to look at it. It's a button-smashing, reflex-testing arcade cabinet that is designed to eat your quarters. Once I realized this and played the game under this sort of mindset, I got an appreciation for the core gameplay loop and found myself enjoying a majority of the encounters throughout the gauntlets between bonfires. This section of the video is kind of a meme, so don't take it too seriously, but I have a tendency to think that a lot of people look past a lot of the faults of this game, and I think that part of it is because Miyazaki came back to work on it. Dark Souls fans can be a bit on the extreme side, so I don't think it's far out of the realm of possibility for them to hold Miyazaki on a pedestal on the vein of someone like Stanley Kubrick. It feels to me that people who spent weeks of their life making a video about how much Dark Souls 2 sucks just can't accept the fact that Dark Souls 3 might not be as good as they wanted it to be. I'm going to quickly take a look at some of the things that people criticize Dark Souls 2 for, and then show you that Dark Souls 3 sometimes does exactly the same thing. Dark Souls 2 has way too many bonfires. Dark Souls 2 and 3 have the exact same amount of bonfires, 77. If you want to understand how insane that number is, then look no further than the amount of bonfires in Dark Souls 1, which is a mere 43. I'm surprised that any of us even beat Dark Souls to begin with. Jesus Christ. Dark Souls 2 mobs you with enemies. We've been over this by now, but I mean, if you want to pretend that Dark Souls 3 doesn't have this exact same issue, then you're just in denial. Why does Dark Souls 2 make me go to Majula to level up? This is a one-for-one issue in Dark Souls 3. A lot of people will complain about having to skip through the dialogue while talking to the Emerald Herald to get past the part where you level up, and I will never ever defend this. It's not a good decision. It's a good thing that Dark Souls 3 fixed this. Putting the iframes into a stat is stupid. This complaint is based around the premise that you have to dump points into a stat that will raise the amount of invincibility frames you have while dodging. Dark Souls 2 is a game where you'll have to dodge once or twice to get out of the range of an enemy swing, even if you are being mobbed, most of the time. What people never fail to mention while complaining about this fact is that ADP, the stat that you have to put points in to increase your iframes, does not just increase iframes. It increases poison bonus, it raises poison, bleed, petrify, and curse resistance, it increases agility, and raises poise, among even more things. Why do I bring this up? Dark Souls 3 doesn't have this issue. Well, like I said early in the video, in Dark Souls 3 you're going to have to be dodging like crazy due to enemies' attacks having upwards of 8 swings. This, coupled with the speed of the game, means that you're going to have to dump points into stamina just so you can fucking avoid being hit on shit like this. In my opinion, it's the same issue, but tweaked slightly in a manner that doesn't appear to have changed anything. But the game around stamina has been tweaked so much that it's something that you need to do. By the way, you can beat Dark Souls 2 without putting points in ADP. Just like I'm sure someone is telling me right now that you don't have to put points into stamina into Dark Souls 3. It's called getting good, you know? All in all, my opinion on Dark Souls 3 after this last playthrough really does come down to the bosses. They're fucking awful. Despite all of the negative things that I've said throughout this video, I do feel like I need to clarify that I do not hate this game. I'm glad that I played through the game again because I can at least appreciate a part of what this game does. But to me, it will always be the bad Dark Souls.
Tomato is a fruit, but it's also a vegetable.
Although, I will admit that this might be the coolest level in any game, even though it's only one line. Look at this shit. Are you kidding me? Look how cool this is. This is basically Los Angeles.
What about Skyrim?
Thor. I don't like Skyrim. I don't know what people see in Skyrim. Fake out. How many fake outs? How many fake outs do you have, bro? Two fake outs. All right, cool.
You just gotta learn. No, dude.
Fake out. Cool. Cool. Oh, get fucked. Oh, there's a third. Okay, cool. There's a third one. You know what? I'm willing to accept that maybe I'm only good at Dark Souls 2. That's fine. But, like, that doesn't change the fact that I still feel this way about the other two games. Okay, back up. Dodge. He hits twice. Okay, fuck this game. I'm going to quit. Quit.
Yeah, bro. Yeah, it's fucking brutal, bro.
No, I'm not done. I'm not done. Not even the victory will feel good. It will be bittersweet. This game doesn't tell you shit! Too many electrons. Too many neurons.
Electronics around.
Too many neurons firing off in my body. What did I do wrong? I don't know. People will watch this and be like, oh, you did this wrong. And I'm just like, I don't know what I did. Oh, This is the Dogecoin of video games.
Your words.